Stevenson McDonald was the 9th child born to Francis McDonald and Emily Rosella Stevenson. He was born soon after the turn of the century on August 15, 1904, in a little frame home on their farm nestled at the foot of Mount Olympus. This farm was known as the Upper Place and had been purchased by Steve's grandfather, William McDonald, soon after he arrived from Scotland in 1874. William and Christina lived in the dugout near a spring on the property for a while, and then built a small 2-room adobe and frame home there. Later, William built a small brick home behind the frame home and moved into it. Francis and Rosella spent a great deal of time in the Upper Place after they were married, caring for William and helping with the farm work there while living in the small frame home. This home on the Upper Place was the home where Steve was born. August was harvest time for the delicious peaches that grew on the Upper Place, and family and hired help were busy with the peach harvest and building an addition in the frame home. Steve's entry into the world in this flurry of activity was certainly appropriate. He was always busily engaged in a multitude of worthwhile endeavors. Because the family ran 3 farms and engaged in other enterprises, the boys quickly learned how to milk, harvest the fruit, vegetables, and hay, and carry on other farm-related activities. As a young lad, probably 5 or 6, Steve would help Joseph milk the cows. Steve would milk several of them while the milking was easy, and then Joe would finish them off and strip the milk, which was harder to do. Sometimes they would race to see who could finish their share of the cows first. Once, when Howard was home from school, he snuck into the barn and quietly helped Steve finish his cows without letting Joe see him. Of course, Steve won the race that day, but the joke backfired. Joe told Steve that if he could milk that fast, he could start finishing off his own share of the cows. Steve began his schooling in the Irving School, formerly the District 28 School, built from bricks which his father Francis made from his clay pits and fired in his kiln. However, he soon transferred to the 2-room District 37 School, which was replaced in 1913 by the Oakwood School. His sister Grace was teaching the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grades there and wanted his company. They usually took the horse and buggy for the 2.5 mile drive south from their home on Highland Drive where they were then living. Steve had always enjoyed the family's horses and enjoyed helping Grace with their horse Bess and the buggy. He was fun company for her on the ride. Grace said,
"He was a bright addition to my room. His sunny disposition and his unexpected, clever comments have given me a lasting respect and admiration for him."
As he finished the 1st grade, he transferred back to the Irving School. This school housed grades 1 through 8 until 1917. At that point, Holladay Elementary was built, and Irving became Irving Junior High School, and the 9th grade was added. The school was heated by a coal-burning stove. Steve and his friend Milo Andrus were often assigned to get the coal and stoke the fire. One day they put too much slack into the stove and then opened the door to stir it up. The fire exploded and spit smoke and coal dust on them. No one was hurt, and it seemed an amusing incident. From then on, when Steve and Milo wanted to laugh and giggle, they would remind each other of the explosion. They often felt that the time to remind each other of the incident was when they were sitting in church as deacons and preparing to pass the sacrament. Steve's mother often reprimanded them for this, but it didn't dampen their spirits.
Steve was baptized August 31st, 1912, in the Granite Steakhouse on 33rd South and State Street. At that time, all of the southern end of the Salt Lake Valley was the Granite Steak. Later, the eastern section of the Granite Stake was divided off to become the Cottonwood Stake. Steve attended the Holladay ward, which stood next to the school on the school-church corner in Holladay. Steve was very athletic. He was the fastest runner in the elementary school. His athletic prowess was rewarded as he went to Granite High School. He was a regular player on the varsity football team as a freshman and throughout his high school years. He was often acclaimed as the most valuable lineman, although now he often says that he played dead end or fallback. Steve also participated in dramatics and assemblies at the high school, where he was often asked to tap dance. It took real dedication and effort for Steve to play football, keep up with his studies, and do the work that was required of him on the farm. His father was one of the first 70s called as the church began calling presidencies of 70s quorums to serve a mission in connection with their calling to the presidency. He was called to the Western States Mission and served there from October 1919 to April 1920, when Steve was 15. Steve, Joe, and Irvin carried on with the farm work in his absence. While Francis was on his mission, he wrote long letters to tell the boys how to do the various tasks. Steve maintained that the advice and counsel in the letters were valuable in making him a successful farmer, not only while his father was on his mission, but in his later married life as well. Soon after Francis returned from his mission, he ran out of gas on the way to the East Mill Creek farm. His wife Rosella and their daughter Clara were with him. Rosella and Clara got out of the car, and Francis moved the car backwards down the steep hill to the side of the road. The wheel of the car went over the edge of the road, and the car overturned on him. Rosella and Clara were unable to lift the car, and he was pinned beneath it for some time before help came to rescue him. He didn't ever recover from the effects of this accident. Francis died December the 2nd, 1920. The next year, Joseph was called on a mission. This left Steve at the age of 16 with the responsibility of helping his mother Rosella through the trying adjustment of widowhood with 9 children still in the home, the management of the 3 farms, and the control of the distribution of the Big Cottonwood Creek overflow water to the farms. Steve had little time to study. He was always busy with farm work. He would often go to bed as soon as the chores were done late in the evening, and then get up at 2 or 3 a.m. to prepare his lessons for the next day. Other times he would begin to study as soon as he came in from the chores and fall asleep at his book. Yet in spite of the heavy workload and limited study time, he did very well in school. He was only able to attend classes for high school about 3 months of each year. The rest of the year he took his classes as correspondence courses, picking up the assignments on Mondays and returning them and checking in with the teachers on Fridays. Still, as a freshman, he carried 9.6 credit hours and had enough credits to graduate as a junior in 1922. However, the law stated that students had to attend class a specific number of hours, so he continued in school and graduated in 1923. He took the highly competitive test for entrance to West Point and was appointed as second alternate for the state of Utah by Congressman Leatherwood. In 1910, the family moved to the lower place permanently. From then on, the boys would travel back and forth between the 2 farms regularly. Often as Steve traveled the road between the 2 farms, he would catch sight of Elizabeth, Livy, Andrus, as she worked on embroidery or other projects on her front porch on Holladay Boulevard. Of course, they often saw each other at church as well, since they both attended the Holladay ward. They also attended Granite High School together in their senior year. Throughout their high school years and courtship, Steve and Libby associated with a group of young people who became known as the Gang. They attended ward and school dances and functions, went camping and bobsledding, and participated in other group activities. Their friendship and association with these people continued throughout their lives. Steve served in the Sunday school superintendency for 11 years, beginning as a young man, so much of his courting with Libby was at Sunday school parties and other church-sponsored functions and dances. Libby graduated from the University of Utah and then taught school for 2 years. On the 8th of June, 1927, soon after school was out for the year and Libby had completed her teaching duties at the Blaine School, Steve and Libby were married in the Salt Lake Temple by George F. Richards. Steve and Libby made their home on the upper place, where they raised fruit, vegetables, poultry, cows, honeybees, and, most importantly of all, children. Libby loved children and was a wonderful, loving mother. They were the parents of 8 children: Elizabeth, Emily, Louise, Ross, Stevenson, Howard, Irene, and Edward. They lived in the old adobe and frame house that had been built by Steve's grandfather and added on to by his parents, Francis and Rosella McDonald. It was, in fact, the home in which Steve had been born. It had served the Francis McDonald family well, and now provided well for Steve and Libby and their small family. The farm was a good place to raise children. There was always ample to eat, even during the lean times of the Depression, room for children to run and play, good fresh air, and enough work to help train the children in responsibility and hard work. In fact, there was enough hard work to be done that even the extended families could benefit. Both Steve and Libby were close to their parents and brothers and sisters, and there was cooperation in the family when work needed to be accomplished. During harvest time, Steve's family were often at the farm to help with the harvest by picking the peaches, sorting them into full baskets of uniform sizes, and helping Libby can and bottle produce. Not only the labor, but also the fruits of the labor were shared with the family. All of the family would come to the farm to share in the harvest. Some of them also occasionally came to milk the cows. The cows were usually kept in the pasture down on Hillstrom Drive, a couple of miles away from the farm. Often Steve's sister Leone would bring her son Johnny to help milk. Other times the children would accompany Steve and Libby to the pasture to watch their father milk, and sometimes even do a little of the milking themselves. This was a special time for the family to be together. The family also often accompanied Steve on his rounds as the water master, as he checked head gates and water flow. Though this may have been work for Steve, it was fun for the children.
While Steve was farming and buying the upper place, Joe was beginning to subdivide the lower place. Things went quite well for a short time, and then the hard times of the Depression took their toll. Steve and Joe decided to join together and pool their assets in an effort to sustain their families. They continued to farm and also to build, taking even the smallest remodeling jobs in order to stay in the business. Things were rather nip and tuck during the Depression, but they gradually improved as the economy improved. Now homes which they have built or remodeled are to be found throughout the whole of Salt Lake Valley. Steve and Libby were both hard workers, but they also found time for family outings to Great Salt Lake and Lagoon, trips up the nearby canyons, and trips to Camas, where Libby's sister Martha lived. One of the fun outings for the family was the 24th of July parade. It was a tradition to hook up the horses to the farm wagon, which was made into a covered wagon to drive in the parade. All of the children, including the youngest baby at the time, would pile in along with Steve, Libby, Aunt Leone, and any other relatives that would like to go for the ride.
One day when they were in the parade, a woman called out, "Are all of those yours?" And Steve answered, they were all his, and he would have brought the rest if he'd had another wagon.
The boys thought it was a great special treat to get to ride on the horses as they pulled the covered wagon along the parade route. As their family grew, Libby and Steve decided to build a new house south of the old family house. Times were still hard and finances scarce, so they built a basement house thinking they could add to the top story as the resources were available. They lived in the basement house for several years and eventually were able to add the upstairs. Steve pulled huge rocks down from the gravel pit at the base of Mount Olympus with his horses to encircle the home and added a rock stairway up the south side to beautify the new home. This new home was a long sought-after dream of Libby's and much appreciated by her. The church was a source of social activities as well as spiritual development for the family. Steve and Libby were always active in the church, attending their meetings and participating in various roles of leadership. Besides serving in the Sunday school presidency, Steve also served as the president of the MIA and one of the presidents of the 70s Quorum. As a member of the 70s Quorum presidency, Steve was called to serve a stake mission. He served as the president of the Holladay Stake Mission from 1946 to 1948. He was released from this responsibility soon after the death of his wife Libby, March the 22nd, 1948. Then, a little over a year later, June 15, 1949, Steve married Sylvia Robinson Ball. Sylvia had two daughters, Vesta and Priscilla. This brought the number of children in the home up to 10. This was quite a responsibility for a new wife to assume, but Sylvia was equal to the task. She put her whole heart and soul into melding the families together into a loving, helpful unit. By now, Steve was heavily committed to the building business with his brother Joseph. In 1952, the two brothers incorporated their partnership. All of their sons and son-in-laws had opportunities to work with the McDonald Brothers Incorporated to learn the building business. It was a good apprenticeship. All four of Steve's sons had continued in home construction in addition to their other endeavors such as school teaching, architectural drafting, and salesmanship. It was not unusual for the McDonald Brothers crew to pour a basement every day of the week during some phases of construction on their projects. They would have an assembly line where they would pour one basement one day, strip it the next, moving the forms to the basement hole next door, where they would quickly form the walls for the next basement. Often the concrete trucks would arrive and begin to pour that next basement while some of the crew were still moving and placing the forms for the rest of the walls. Steve would be up early every morning to cut the lumber and organize the day's activities. They had lumber delivered to the McDonald farm by the carload. They often had large lumber bunks on both the northwest and southeast corners of the yard. They would sort it according to grade and then store the best lumber in the chicken coops to use to the best possible advantage. One day, while Steve was cutting the lumber on the large radial arm saw in the lumber garage north of the house, his hand slipped and moved into the saw blade. Luckily, Alvin Phillips was close by and helped Steve get away from the saw and into the house, where they called the doctor and rushed Steve to the hospital. Although the damage was extensive, the doctors were able to save Steve's hand with minimal loss of function. The loss would have been even less if Steve had been willing to quit work for a longer period of time, but he insisted on resuming work almost immediately. His doctor, Vernon Stevenson, later told Steve not to admit who his doctor was because he didn't want the blame for the crooked finger.
The McDonald brothers not only built homes, they also helped build churches. They helped build the old Holladay wards, the Mount Olympus ward, and the Holladay 4th, 5th, 6th, 18th, and 27th wards, often serving as the foreman for some phases of the building. All of the time, labor, and machinery time on these projects was, of course, gratis. They have always been generous with their time and talents in the work of the Lord. In April 1961, Steve and Sylvia were called on a building mission to Great Britain. Their farewell was held July 16, 1961, and they were soon on their way to England with Irene and Edward, the only children still living in the home. When they arrived in London, they were assigned to the Scottish mission to build the first Latter-day Saint chapel in Scotland, the Drum Chapel Ward in Glasgow, Scotland. Here Steve again trained people in the building profession as he worked with the saints in the area and young men sent on building missions to complete the building. His mission also turned out to be a leadership mission as well as a building mission. In fact, he often said he was a building missionary in his spare time. Hardly had he touched ground in Bonnie, Scotland, when he was set apart as counselor to President Peter Heed of the Paisley branch in Paisley, Scotland, in August of 1961. He carried out his duties as a member of the branch presidency and was a spiritual leader for the young men working on the chapel. These young building missionaries were only 15 or 16 years old and sometimes fairly new to the church. They benefited greatly from Steve's lifelong membership and spiritual experience. Steve started each workday with an hour of teaching and study with them. Each month they would also have a special outing. They often came to Steve for counsel and advice. Building missionaries at that time lived in the homes of some of the members in the area and were fed and clothed by other ward's members. They also received a stipend of $2.80 per week for their personal spending. This amount came from the church and was given to them with the understanding that it could be tithe-free. One day, one of the building missionaries asked Steve if he thought it was all right for them to receive their spending money without paying tithing on it. Steve told them it was all right if they wanted to do it that way, but he felt that if it were he would pay the tithing because he would want to be eligible for the blessings which paying an honest tithe ensures. The young men decided to pay tithing on their stipend. Years later, in 1982, a missionary reunion was held in Salt Lake City along with General Conference for the building missionaries from Drum Chapel. All of the young building missionaries who had participated in the project were there. Each of them was serving in a capacity of leadership in their various wards and states. This was a testimony to Steve on the blessings which follow the payment of tithes and offerings. Non-payment of tithing can lead to inactivity. Payment of tithes and offerings leads to activity and commitment. On August the 25th, 1961, Steve was called and set apart as a counselor to Bishop William McAdare of the Drum Chapel Ward. At this time, President David O. McKay presided as the Glasgow stake, the first stake in Scotland, was organized. The Drum Chapel building was completed and the Thanksgiving service was held November 17, 1963. Steve and Sylvia were released from their mission December the 5th, 1963, just in time to return home for Christmas.
Since their return from their mission, Steve and Sylvia have continued to serve in various capacities in the church. Steve has served in the high priest leadership as an assistant and in the Aaronic priesthood over 21. He has also worked as a temple worker, first in the Salt Lake Temple and presently in the Jordan River Temple. Sylvia has served as a teacher and counselor in both the Ward and Stake Relief Society, and also worked in the temples along with her husband. They have recently written and edited a history of their ward. Steve resumed his service on various water boards upon his return from his mission. Steve had served as the manager and director of the Upper Canal Irrigation Company several times, and as a director of the Bell Canyon Irrigation Company and Holladay Water Company. Steve also resumed his service in the Lions Club and the Sons of the Utah Pioneers, where he has served as the president of both organizations and on their boards as well. They often entertain the Sons of the Utah Pioneers in their backyard and travel to the state conventions of the Water Boards and Lions Club, visiting with their children along the way. Children are still an important part of their lives. Steve is truly the patriarch of his family. Family reunions are held in the McDonald yard throughout the summer months. In 1983, a good old-fashioned whipping bee was also held there. The home and coops needed new roofing, so a date was set to begin the work. Even though the date chosen was the opening day of deer season, most of the male members of the McDonald clan were there to assist in the work. As one of the neighbors saw Steve prepare to start the roofing, he decided to lend a helping hand. Before he could gather his tools and get over to Steve's home, a veritable army of men began to arrive in cars and trucks, each with the necessary tools to start the roofing operation. Both the home and the coops were completely roofed by mid-afternoon. Steve has lived a full and productive life and is still very active and busily engaged in the building business. He is presently working on a condominium project, Silverwood, on 39th South just below 9th East. His life has been spared several times through his faith and the faith of his family. He has had a few near accidents as brakes have failed and his truck or other equipment has malfunctioned. He has been hospitalized for several operations, any one of which could have been fatal. But priesthood blessings and faith and prayers have prolonged his life so this presence can bless his family. True to his heritage, Steve does not dwell on misfortunes or illness, but always sees the bright prospects ahead.
This year, 1984, Steve is 80 years old and boasts a progeny of 14 children, 64 grandchildren, and 59 great-grandchildren. The total spouses for his children and grandchildren is 40. This makes a grand total of 177 descendants, including spouses.